Hi, and thank you for joining me on another episode of the Tech Exec Podcast, where I'll help you create teams worth leading, because life's too short to lead mediocre teams. As always, I'm your host, Aviv Ben-Yosef, advisor and consultant to tech execs worldwide, and today our subject is thinking too big. Before getting to the actual episode, I'm sorry for the sound being different. First, since the move, my regular podcasting microphone has been having this humming that I haven't solved yet, and I don't want it to come off in the audio. So I'm using my YouTube regular video microphone. I'm hoping the sound is good enough. And if you can hear, my voice is also a bit off, so we're gonna keep this short. And now let's talk about thinking too big. If you've been following me at all, you know that I don't think we need to just always be handling the very next thing that pops up, but that we need to think a few steps ahead. That's a good thing to do. You cannot, as a leader, always be surprised by what's coming. Nevertheless, the problem is that I'm seeing more and more leaders, especially tech leaders, who have this tendency to start obsessing over things they might need in the future and planning those. And it's like taking measurements for a piece of furniture you might want to purchase like in 3 years, and they're doing all of this extra work. Sometimes it's because they have some fear and doing this makes them feel like it's going to be okay. Sometimes it's just their form of keeping busy. I don't know why, but we do that, and it's a lot of wasted effort that at minimum is just wasting effort right now, but can actually turn into a cultural issue that's taking precious time from the team and also harms how the team aligns with what we actually need to do when it comes to the business needs. A few real examples I've seen over the past couple of months or so were companies detailing their job descriptions and the career ladders for engineers and all sorts of engineering management levels, even though they knew that they will not have any changes in those levels for the next year at least. Seeing that, like, why are you defining with ridiculous amount of details what you expect to be the difference between a director and a VP of engineering when you're telling me that you're not going to have an additional VP of engineering essentially never, and you're not even going to be hiring another director at least for the next year, if not longer? What's the use of creating these documents, having them approved by HR, by the CEO, etc., sharing those only to show people that they matter nothing at all? What diff? As engineers, we like to see the diff in the pull request. What's the diff between you doing this work and not doing it? What has changed in the company? Of course, the answer is absolutely nothing. You could have not done it and no one would have ever realized it. That's my definition of wasted effort, because it's not as if you, for example, it's not thinking too big if you ensure that you know how to roll back to backup in case there's an issue, even if you don't end up really having to use it in production for a year. Having the plan is not thinking too big, because the risk is huge and you have to do the steps well in advance. You can realize, oh my God, we need to roll back from backup. Too bad we don't have backups. So that makes sense. That is not wasted effort. But job descriptions, before you even start hiring or thinking about promoting anyone for years, who cares? You can just do it then. You don't get any benefit from having things ready. It's like having inventory that's never going to be used. We've learned from Toyota, from Lean, that all of this extra inventory does not make sense. Similarly, and exactly about inventory, I see companies who build so detailed product specs and engineering plans that actually would span months, whole quarters, where they given the permission to do just that. So they sit and specify almost to a perfect degree a bunch of projects, engineering work, refactoring, possible future product directions, but all of those done without having the time nor the company intent to invest in them. People who feel like they need to have these things ready in case anything ever happens. And I'm like, come on, you're creating this resource that's actually going to become outdated very fast, because the way we work in tech is things change so fast, and whatever product specs you had for that brand new idea, you do not need them to be so detailed, because once you haven't touched them for 2-3 months, the product has evolved and you're going to have to redo a bunch of them anyway. You would have been better had you just kept those at the visionary level. Here's a possible direction. Here's why we think it's good. Here's the general estimate, and selling that to leadership as opposed to already having done all the work where you're gonna have to redo it anyway. Thinking too big, one last example again from real life, is when I worked with someone recently who had this habit of thinking exactly how the team might split off into future teams down the line, not even based on the actual people currently in the team, not based on what we know the company would need, but playing all sorts of different war games with themselves, thinking maybe we can spin this up, that team, about this, about that. I'm like, okay, it's good to know that you've got possibilities, but why are you documenting all of that in Notion? Are you ever going to forget that you have those possibilities if you'll ever need them? If the need will arise, you just took 20 minutes to think about it. Couldn't you do it then? What benefit are you getting from doing all this extra work right now? And you can see it in everything. It doesn't have to be creating just documents and feature descriptions. It can even be about things such as how your team is doing. Things like adopting AI, reviewing code, things that you have in your processes. And what you're thinking is, oh, I know, I can just bring this in and start thinking about how we can do this the best way possible. But you're actually, again, just getting all in your head, doing a bunch of busy work as opposed to creating value. So your takeaway today is to think, what are you doing that's not actually making any dent, that if you were to not do it at all and wait till you actually see the need, the result would not be significantly different. There's no benefit from having the pre-plan like in the backups. The actual work doesn't require months of preparation of, hiring someone. It's just something that you decide to do and sit to do. Why would you do that? Think about that. And anything there that you can eliminate will make you a more effective leader and will also ensure that your team sees not mixed messages, but a very clear way of operation. We want to get that done. This is what's important. This is what's getting our attention. And those are the only things we're focusing on right now. We can prioritize, and we do prioritize. That's it for this week. Thank you for joining me. I'm reminding you that I have a new offering, Unplugged with Aviv, where I have sessions that I talk in depth about different skill sets that will upgrade you as a leader. And it's unplugged because I do this very, very raw. We talk, there's no PowerPoints or stuff. I actually come in, share a bunch of real life stories and best practices that I've used a lot of times with people. Because it's live, you can ask questions live, or you can submit them in advance. You get the recording later, and you get this once a month. So you are constantly evolving and becoming a better leader. So Check out the details in the link in the show notes. As always, if you have any questions or comments, or you want to check out my free newsletter, again, everything in the show notes, and I'll see you here next week. Ciao.